Hi everybody, this is Paul Bohn at Fausone Bohn. Here today, I'm with Abigail Richards. Abby is one of our preeminent family law attorneys, and I've got a few questions for Abby. Abby, what should I do if my ex-spouse does not want to send my child back to school, but I want to send them back? This is a question we get a lot during the COVID-19 crisis.
So currently, we haven't had a ton of cases regarding sending children back to school. It is currently September. I expect a few of these to start coming up as schools switch to online learning. What we're encouraged to do, the courts are encouraging everyone to do, is to sit down and try and talk this out, because the courts are going to be overwhelmed. Everything is getting pushed back, and you don't want to have your child miss any of their schooling.
Abby, how do I do that when I can't come to your office?
We are holding mediations, and I find that that is one of the most effective and quickest ways to get these resolved. Especially with school, there are so many considerations about work, what you are able to do if your spouse requires that you do virtual learning, but you work a 9 to 5 in the office. That's obviously not going to work.
Can I do a mediation remotely, or do I have to be face-to-face?
Everything that we do is being done remotely. We do offer the option to do it in person if someone's more comfortable with that.
Okay. Does it matter whether I'm the mother or the father?
It does not. What matters more is just who's going to be able to, if dad says that he wants the kids to do virtual learning, nobody's home from 9 to 5, obviously that's going to pose an issue. So logically looking through these things and seeing, well, what's going to be the best environment for the child?
What do you think is the best way to establish parenting time during this quarantine?
So it was made clear at the beginning of the shutdown by Governor Whitmer that parties are to continue their parenting time schedule as ordered by the court.
So the same schedule?
Yes, it was specifically excluded from the order that transporting the child to and from parenting time exchanges was exempt from the lockdown. Obviously, everybody's case is different. That's a broad,
What if I lost my job and my spouse didn't?
So I would suggest that you immediately get in contact with an attorney to discuss changing the child support. What we've been doing recently is a lot of companies have put in a time frame for what the decrease is going to be. So we can do 2 different uniform child support orders, one with the decreased income and make it retroactive to when you lost your job, and then one for when it's expected for your income to go back to normal.
Abby, I've heard occasionally when one spouse really doesn't adopt the recommended COVID guidance, for example, refuses to get tested or when tested to share those results with me. What can I do?
So there's nothing you can do to unfortunately force the other parent to cooperate or to follow the CDC guidelines. That is, again, a question of custody and parenting time and what's best for the child. So it's always something that we can bring a motion, discuss with the court, do a mediation to try and resolve this, because what the court's most concerned about is the best interest of the children.
Will a parent be held in contempt for denying visitation due to a COVID-19?
They possibly can. Of course, problem with all this is it depends. If you know that the other parent has a positive COVID test in their household and they want to send the child back and forth like everything's normal, that again is a reasonable excuse to temporarily deny parenting time.
Is that serious enough to bring to the court's attention?
Absolutely. But what we would request is that if you are denying parenting time due to some COVID reasons, you offer the other parent make-up parenting time in the future so that at the end of the day, you're not refusing without offering them anything else.
So the offer to try to settle something through your attorney, someone like yourself, is the best first step rather than rushing to court.
Of course, the court is not going to look kindly on someone that just refuses parenting time without trying to offer any alternatives to the parent. We have seen, especially with parents that have to travel longer distances, state lines, requires plane travel, things like that, offering alternatives such as Zoom parenting time. Obviously, it's not the same, but in the meantime, you can offer Zoom parenting time with make-up parenting time in the summer, or at some point when all of this goes back to normal, hopefully next year.
If both parents agree to a different plan than what is currently in place during the COVID-19 pandemic, how should they memorialize that?
I would suggest that you talk to an attorney, get this put into a consent order that both parties sign so that one parent can't go back later and claim that you unilaterally changed the parenting time schedule.
Good advice, Abby. Can Child Protective Services continue to remove children from a home even during the pandemic?
As far as I'm aware, yes, they can.
If a child is removed by Child Protective Services, how will it be ensured that the child will be put into a COVID-19 negative environment?
This is a great question, but I would assume that, CPS is doing all necessary health checks. They do a home check before placing a child in a home generally, so I'd assume that
Can an attorney contact Child Protective Services and make certain requests if they know COVID-19 has been found in that home?
I don't believe that CPS will communicate with the attorney because they're not one of the named parties. And just generally, if you ever have an open CPS case and you want to get a report, that is your responsibility to go get that report. I, as the attorney, cannot request and receive that report.
Okay. So the question is, my spouse has a high-risk job for COVID-19. Is there anything I can do to change parenting time so that, at least during the pandemic, my child is not around that circumstance? Recognizing it may mean a change in parenting time for my spouse who has that job.
So I wouldn't suggest that anyone would take any self-help and just deny. This is grounds to file a motion. It's not an emergency motion, but we can file something and request that the court enter an order so that the other party would be granted make-up parenting time at a future date.
What if my spouse wants our child to be tested for the virus, but I don't?
Generally, a doctor is suggesting that a child get medical care, it's in the child's best interest to receive that medical care. If you have joint legal custody, these decisions should be made together. But of course, if someone finds out that the child's exposed during their parenting time, it can be kind of a, quick decision that needs to be made to get the child tested to make sure that everyone's safe as the child is going between households. So to minimize, I would encourage anyone that believes they should be tested or is recommended to be tested is.
So if I have my child during my parenting time and I reasonably believe they should be tested for COVID-19 because of some circumstance, should I feel fairly safe I can have that done without the court being upset with me?
Yes.
Great. So Abby, words of wisdom for parents navigating their way through this COVID-19 with kids. What do you want to tell them?
It's always in your best interest to reach out to an attorney. Feel free to reach out to us at the Family Law Department here at the office. We offer a 1-hour free consultation. It never hurts to talk to someone before seeking self-help to make sure that you're on the right track.
Great advice. Thanks, Abby.